Right, so I want to start the session by doing the exact opposite of what we normally do. So I'll bow in and I'll come back to you. So what do we normally do when we start? We center. Well, I want to try and destabilize you rather than stabilize you. I want you to think of a situation or a thing or a person, something that really irritates you, angers you, depresses you, annoys you, panics you, makes you fearful. Just try and find something in your life that does that. And I want you just to focus on that for a moment or a little while, actually. And I want you to, once you've really got into it, start to notice how you feel. And of course, feeling is something we do through our bodies. So where are you feeling it? What are you noticing about your body as you concentrate on this thing that destabilizes you, upsets you? Now, I don't want to leave you with that for too long, but now, as you've captured that feeling, we're going to do Tai Savaki, right? So just turning. Okay, that's probably enough. Okay, so now what I like to do over the months that we've been doing this, we've done many centering exercises. So find the one that you want to play with and get back to center. Find the one that makes you feel cool, calm, and at your best potential once you've done it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just find a centering exercise that you really enjoy and really speaks to you. Okay, hopefully you're somewhere near ready. And what I'd like you to do is exactly the same exercise. So Tai Savaki. Okay. So, what did you notice? What was the difference between the first time you did the exercise and the second time you did the exercise, if anything?
More balanced.
More balance. Okay. Hopefully on the second one, not the first one.
Yes.
Anyone else got any feedback?
Felt lighter.
You
On
felt
the
lighter?
second. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I would say less tense. Because
Felt less
first
tense.
one,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So how did that reflect in your body? Just your muscles felt more relaxed. Okay. Any other observations?
I would say more control.
More control. Okay, so my feedback was that I was able to be more in touch with what was going on around me. I was more aware of the room. I was kind of going through the motions the first time, but the second time I was more aware of my surroundings and my part in those surroundings. It became less automatic and more, I perceived more, I think. So did anyone else have that experience now I mention it, or? Okay. And that's how it should be, isn't it? That's why we want to be centered when we perform, because if we're not really in contact with what's going on in front of us, it's much more likely we're going to miss something important and be vulnerable. So on the mat, that's represented by, you know, being hit if we're being attacked or pushed over or whatever. We want to be so in the moment that that's never going to happen, because we're always moving to the right place at the right time and doing the right thing. Okay, so see my nice, sharp, shiny knife. I'm going to attack you. Okay, so you're going to prepare for a knife attack. Okay, and I'm going to attack you. And when I attack you, you're going to do your favorite defense from a knife. It's very sharp and it's very pointy. So don't be in the way of it. Let's hope you're not. Okay, your choice as to what you do. Are you ready? Okay, we're going to keep repeating this for a little while. And I'm really coming for you. Okay, so just capture that for a second. Go back to your centering. So do whatever it was that you were doing before. I mean, you could change it if you really have a mind to, but get back to feeling really centered again. And while you're doing that, take a look at somebody facing you with a knife. So try to be centered as you observe somebody in front of you with a knife in real life. They're threatening you and they're looking really angry and it looks like they're coming for you. But you try to stay in your centering and just observe what's going on. Stay calm, see it for what it is, but stay calm. You've been training for this. It's uncomfortable, but you can deal with it because you're centered and you're trained. Okay. So come back. I am that nasty guy. I am the one with the knife. You've got to see me in the same way. And again, you're going to do the same exercise or ways of defending from the knife. Okay, that's probably enough. So how did those two sets of exercises compare? Honest feedback. Could be exactly the same. Maybe you did feel calmer and more able to, like you felt more in control the second time. I don't know. Of course, this is a little bit of a strange exercise to be doing online with nobody there in front of you, but hopefully your mind played its part. So some honest feedback.
And the safety of my imagination, the first one felt it was an attack and a defense. The second one felt more like a sense of a welcome challenge.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Anybody else?
In the first one, when you really attacked, I was, oh, wow. And then in the second one that I was more center, I did one exit, and then maybe let me try this other one. So I could change after that.
So
It
suddenly,
wasn't that good, but just changing.
yeah, so you had a bit more freedom in your thinking.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
Anything else?
and I think you can feel the attack earlier than
Right.
than the second. The second time was earlier that you can feel the tensions
Okay. James?
to attack.
I think second time around is remembering my own posture and movement.
Okay, so you kind of became aware of more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be good. Caitlin, do you want to offer anything? You don't have to, just if you want to.
I kind of agree with Finn in the fact that the second time around it felt like more positive challenge rather than being attacked by a knife.
Okay, how about you, Renal?
The first thing that came to me when you first said about the exercise was something that I've been practicing in general, which was not to put in too much of an interpretation and just kind of try and witness that someone's in front of me with a knife. I noticed when I was doing the exercise, I was probably being a bit kind of thinking perfectionist and thinking, I should be moving this foot because this is how you're supposed to practice. And then the second time, I let go of that a little bit and I just kind of allowed it to go with the flow because I thought, well, if this was actually happening, it wouldn't be a perfect thing. I would just have to do whatever,
Absolutely.
whatever you were sensing.
And I don't know, but I suspect that you haven't done Aikido that much on the mat. Am I right?
I haven't done any.
Right, there you are. So, I mean, you haven't had any training on this, whereas a lot of the people here have done some training on it. So I think you would be quite entitled to feel a little bit awkward, even though you feel more centered, but you don't really know exactly what you should be doing. So that's absolutely fine. Good. So this is why we want to be centered when we're facing a problem, because you're all reporting that you probably dealt with the problem better the second time than you would the first time. Okay, so let's go back to your personal stressor, right? So whatever it was that you were envisioning at the beginning of this session, that stressor, irritant, angry maker, whatever it is that makes you kind of destabilize and lose your center, I want you to focus on that. But as you do it this time, I want you to try and bring your centered self to it and look at it from a centered perspective. What do you notice this time about that situation that maybe you didn't notice before? Maybe there are more options available to you in this scenario as to how you could deal with it. Probably destabilizing and losing your center isn't the most effective solution. So just as when you face someone with a knife and you have to deal with that, what does your centered self say about the situation that you're looking at? What tools is it offering you to solve that? When do you think you've played with this enough and you've come to your conclusions about the situation, then just come back to me. Good. Okay. What did you discover, if anything?
It's not to predict, not to control the situation.
Right.
Yeah, and the tension of the first one is not so strong anymore. It's kind of, you know, it's going like you. It's not so not such big influence on you anymore.
Okay.
It weakens.
Any other revelations?
For me,
So- We'll take Renal first because Finn likes being interrupted. It's his favourite thing. He always
sorry,
has. No, you cut him. You were there first. But it's inevitable. As soon as Finn puts his thing on, in every session we're ever on, he always gets interrupted.
well, he should go first then. You go first, Finn.
Thank you, if you say so. This is a sense of space. So I was struck in the, as soon as we opened up from the first exercise, the sense of things being more real and more present. And I think that my stressor sort of makes me retreat inside, so I get some tightness inside, which is almost like I'm trying to close down.
Okay.
So there's the expansiveness and the sense that it's more present, less, it's more real in a sense, but less self-contained.
Okay, good. I want to sort of follow that up in a minute, but Renal.
The first thing that came to me was that I thought, well, this person is suffering too, and that's why they're doing it. Is probably as a kind of defense mechanism, and I can show them compassion. And when I did that, I noticed that my body softened quite a lot,
Wow,
and that really did help me like feel a lot more centered.
right.
Yeah, but then I also came to I also need to protect myself, but without judging this other person.
Fascinating and wonderful too. Joe, anything?
Yes, kind of. So I was just projecting on resolving the problem that's far away, besides looking at the space here. Now I focus, my center is here. So working the situation, what do I have here right now? Not with the things that I don't have here yet. So that was, yeah.
So did it give you clearer sight of whatever it was that you were previously trying to stress yourself out with, or I was asking you to focus on? Did it offer you clearer insight?
No, it was not yet, but it's kind of, it's not a point, something specific. It's kind of, it's more the situations as a whole itself, not it's like, it's not that this cup is the response for it. So it's not an item, but it's kind of the situation. It's maybe.
Yeah, fine, absolutely. Caitlin, did you notice anything? You're on a roll. You've spoken once tonight, so we'll see if we can get you to go it twice.
I'm not particularly good at. I can't imagine two things at once. There wasn't much difference for me, really.
Fine, no problem. Yeah, well, it's something to think about. I think ideally you want it to provide you with just a bit more insight to the situation. So your revelation, Renal, is exactly what I was hoping would happen. That suddenly it would give you a bit more insight and a bit more distance from the thing, and you would see options and have thoughts that would make it easier for you to deal with. So when you feel oh, well, perhaps this person's doing it for a reason, and you can empathize with that. You don't have to agree with it. I don't agree with people trying to hit me with a knife, but I can understand that, you know, if I've killed their child, they might feel that way. Take it to extremes. I'm not really a child killer, but I'm just trying to say that if you can get inside the head of other people, it's much easier to understand where they're coming from, and therefore it's much easier to deal with. You can lead them on a path where instead of shouting at each other, you can say, ah, I see why you're angry. But, you know, you can bring new information that might calm them down, or you might just say sorry. Whatever it takes to resolve the situation. Or at least seeing that you've got a point of view as well, and that, you know, you just both have to live with the fact that neither of you can agree to disagree, or you have to agree to disagree effectively. Was that useful, helpful, just fanciful because we're doing it all online and, you know, it's a weird thing to do? I really don't know. Finn?
That was a real revelation there. Just, I'm sure other people have considered this before, but not I, about my eye being emotional state of mind as well. So having a critical distance from the situation.
Yes.
But being actually present as well.
So this is something that I'm going to offer you and suggest you might like to practice in your own time. I think it's probably true that at some time in your life, you will have had to deal with people that created a very stressful situation for you. Okay, so it was a big argument or some sort of big upset. And I want you to go back and maybe revisit one of those experiences that was really upsetting. And to place yourself, literally, I'm going to ask you to sit down somewhere and take a look at it from your perspective. Reanalyze why you were so upset. So what were you thinking at the time? What was it that triggered you? What were the consequences of that? And then I want you to move to the place where this other person was. And I want you to pretend to be them. And I want you to try and think through what it was that they must have been thinking when they got involved with this situation. Why were they motivated to do what they did? And see what you come up with. And what were they feeling? And how would they have felt after the encounter? And when you've done that, move to somewhere else in the room and pretend that you have nothing to do with it, but you're watching these two people have at it. And what do you think as the observer? What's your feedback as the observer to these two people? If they asked you to solve the thing, what did you see? And it will give you, I think, you'll find it's a really interesting exercise to do. It will bring some resolution to that previous issue that you maybe didn't think of before. So, yeah. Okay, so we have a little bit of time. What would you like to do next?
Quentin, could I just say one thing, which is that even though it's interesting what I observed in the exercise, in reality, especially in situations that are quite triggering, I find with me anyway, it takes me a while to get to that point. And I have discussed it with Aikido teachers before, because obviously if someone's in front of you with a knife, you know, you don't have a while to get to that point. You need to get there a lot more quickly. And I mean, if I think about it impartially, I think that, you know, maybe I'm there a little bit, but I don't know how effective I would be, you know, in reality.
Okay. Really good point. Okay. The point about training for a long time in anything is that as you do it, it becomes a muscle memory. So, you know, people who've done Aikido for a long time should be able to center really, really quickly. They should just be able to find it. It shouldn't be a state of mind where they are out of it for a long time and then 20 minutes later they remember, oh, I'm not centered. They should know immediately that they're not centered and be able to get back to center just like that. So the way we practice it in Aikido is that when somebody grabs your wrist for the first time, it's a static movement. So they literally grab your wrist and not much more. You might feel a bit of forward pressure or a bit of pulling, but nothing more than that. They're not rushing at you with a knife. And so you learn to deal with what is really a relatively small problem. It's not life-threatening, is it, if someone grabs your wrist, especially if they're not looking like they're about to bite your neck or something. And then after a while, we introduce slow movement. You know, someone walks in and grabs your wrist. And then they come in with more energy and more energy and more energy. And then it's just a complete free-for-all. They're not telling you how they're going to attack you. They attack you any way you want. They want. And you've got to be calm enough to be able to deal with it. Because in reality in life, you don't know what's going to happen 5 seconds from now. You just got to be able to find your best self to be able to deal with it, or not fall out of yourself when it comes your way. So if you're not doing Aikido, that's one of the powers of Aikido training, that over time, it helps you find your best self in a stressful situation. And one of the things I've been trying to send a message on for the last year and a bit is that this skill is something you need to transfer into your daily life. It's not something that, because you're not going to face someone coming at you with a knife very often. But I've read a little bit of your story now, and you've done some amazing things, and you no doubt have had some stressful situations, and it's being able to deal with those calmly. And I suspect, as a very seasoned traveler now, things that initially phased you completely and blew your mind and made you terrified, just doesn't even think twice about it now. Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, you're kind of proving my point. So all of us on the mat, we're used to someone coming at us with a knife because that's what we train with. But you're used to dealing with stuff that some of us would find terrifying because it's very strange to us. So you actually have been practicing those skills. And it's really useful if you can find something that brings you back to center really quickly. Yes. You know, we do some centering exercise that can take minutes to really have the full impact. But I said about 2 weeks ago that for me, when I bow in, that's part of my centering. You know, I'm ready. I take it just a few seconds before I bow in to center and give it my all. So, and actually I can just say center and I feel centered. I just have to say the word. A trigger really helps. So have any of you got any triggers to help you center? So when you're performing Finn, how do you calm down? Because there's always adrenaline in a performance.
I don't, and that's part of the problem, I think. Yeah, I always get overwhelmed and just lose my track. So, but I was thinking the one time I have had this in mind was doing taiko drumming, and they have that same thing when they take a stance, they stand back from the drum, and somebody calls kamaite, and they all step up and they take a stance. So there's that's the clearest example of musical.
Okay. Well, all I can say is I don't suppose you've had to do that much performance in the last year or so because of COVID. You now have an awful lot of tools that you can dial into. I suggest you adopt one or two of them the next time you have to perform and see what a difference it makes. Who else has got something that they use a lot that really works for them?
I used to use this thing a long ago, but it's recently back in my menu of centering. There was this, it was a masseuse therapy, and one day I was saying that talking to my boss, it made me really annoying. And then he said, okay, every time you talk to him, are you on the street? Where are you? And then I say, everywhere. I'm kind of walking on the street, just doing a lot of things at the same time. And then one thing that I started to use that he told me, just stay at your home with barefoot on the floor. So when I know that I have to deal with the really rough, stressful situations, I put my feet on the floor, and if I can be barefoot, perfectly, but if not, it's just like feeling that I'm grounded. And of course, now I'm adding more things to that, but it was something that really helped me, because I was always doing a lot of things at the same time and really far away from my center. So like, and it's something that just for now, stay home. So get back to home and then put your feet on the ground. It's something that helps me a lot sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good one. And it makes me think about coming back to the body. So when we're in stressful situations, we need to come back to the body. So if we go to Tu's session last week, he was saying really that when exploring secular spiritualism, it was all about coming back to your center. It was about breath. It was about integrating yourself, and in so doing, being able to integrate with whatever's going on and finding inner peace with that. So let's kind of have a go at that. All right, so what stance, I'm going to ask you just to take a stance or a posture that to you brings your full self to the situation, whatever situation that you face. So just try and find a posture that you feel grounded and centered, and I think open too. Because if you're not open to what's happening, you're going to miss something. So I'm not being prescriptive about what you do, just give it a go. And what do you notice? How do you feel emotionally? Which bits of your body are speaking to you right now? Okay, that's enough enjoyment now. So now I'm going to ask you to clench your fists, raise your shoulders, and make an angry face. And how do you feel now? And what's speaking to you in this moment? And now we're going to go to fearful. What's speaking to you as you try to imagine that you're uncomfortable with a situation? All right, so let's again just come back with some feedback as to what went on in your body when you tried to experience those three states of mind. Again, I know 2 and 3 are a little bit artificial, but we know enough about what goes on in our body when we do feel angry or fearful, and it does kind of trigger a response in how we're feeling in our mind, I suspect. So I'm going to guess the first one probably felt a bit more comfortable. Seem right? Okay, let's go to number 2, anger. What did you notice when you got angry? What changed in your body?
Sorry, just jump in again, but just thinking that the first one, although it was more comfortable, it felt strangely unfamiliar. I was amused by how unnatural that natural. So it felt very natural, but it's not something I would naturally do. I'd be more. The second and third were more familiar, but it felt much less capable, and just I was amused by that.
Okay, so did the first one feel more pleasant? Right, and you felt more capable in that one than you did in 2 and 3. Right, okay. It's quite an important observation you've just made there. Come back to that. Okay, anybody else? What did you notice?
Felt that I was just like a hammer, but with the heavy parts on my upper body and too much heavy.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, for me, I mean, incredible tension. It was really hard work to be angry, and my field of vision and perception narrowed from that to that. You know, it really got very, very narrow, and fear, a bit more of an acting job. But I was backing away from the problem. I know it was acting, but it's never going to solve the problem if you back away from it. It's still going to be there, still lurking and lingering and one to be solved for the future. So it's not very effective. It was particularly different for any of you or along the same sort of line? Rinal, you can offer something.
I noticed that the second one was almost the opposite to the first one. So in the first one, I felt very expansive and I could really kind of feel the sensations around my heart.
Yes.
And then in the second one, it was kind of the opposite. And the sensation was much more in my pelvis region, which was kind of unexpected.
Right.
And then on the third one, I found that one a bit difficult, but I know in general, when I feel fear or unsure about myself, that I tighten my fists, and I also notice that I don't breathe normally.
Right, all good observations. So the reason I wanted to do this exercise is to show you that you have tools at your disposal. Firstly, there's the observation and an awareness of, oh, I'm not breathing properly and I'm clenching my fists and I feel uncomfortable. And you know what it feels to be comfortable now. So stop thinking about the thing that makes you angry and fearful. Just drop it for a few seconds and come back to your body. Adopt the stance, posture that makes you feel open and comfortable and relaxed and more aware, and then revisit the thing that's stressing you out or making you angry or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, Vitaly, I'll come back to you in just a second. I'll just finish this off. So in Aikido, when you learn a technique, are you a klutz when you first learn that technique? Hands up if you are, right? New technique, klutz. Feel stupid, don't know where my feet are going, my hands are going, not very effective at it. But the more I practice it, the more times I hit it on the head. You know, so maybe 1 in 20 to start with, and then it becomes 1 in 10, and then it becomes 1 in 5 and 1 in 3, and then it's 9 out of 10 or whatever it is. You know, we go on that sort of journey. So don't think that, you know, something that makes you really, really angry, oh, I'll just come back to my body and everything will be fine. If you're really, really angry, it probably won't work. But if you're mildly irritated, it probably will. And you'll think, oh, well, I dealt with that better than I normally do. And you'll have more confidence in it the next time. And something that irritates you slightly to a higher level, you know, you'll begin to find that it works in those situations too. And the more confidence you are able to give the technique, the more it just comes out when you need it and lets you cope. So try it would be my advice. And actually playing these games, practicing it in your head will take you much further than you think. Again, when I reference my Aikido class, I will tell people when they're preparing for a grading, do it in your head all week long, and then tell me what you couldn't see, what technique fell out of your head and you couldn't do it properly. But and after a while, they really learn so much faster when they do that. The performance levels go up quite a lot. Vitaly, close with you.
I just wanted to come back to this calm, anger and fear situation. And I would say, speaking about myself, you really just took my words out of my mouth, and you said about it takes more time to go from calmness to angry, and it really narrows your perception, I would say. And speaking about fear, it's more it's close for me, it's closer to anger, because you know, every time I feel any fear, I'm trying to fight it, because any fear influences my body a lot. So every time I'm not trying to step back, but I'm trying to step forward.
Hmm.
So
But you
Right.
have more motivation than most to practice this stuff, because the consequences of not practicing this stuff have a bigger impact for you than they do to
Yeah.
others.
yeah, absolutely.
So the beauty of it is that because you're forced to practice this, you can give real good testament to the fact that I'm not making this up, that it actually really does make a difference.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. A little different tonight, but I hope interesting and thought-provoking. So I'll leave it with you. I'm going to go and watch England play whoever they're playing, Czechoslovakia, and leave you to watch Scotland, Finn. So it's big footy night tonight. All right, I'm going to leave you. Lovely. Thanks for coming along. And
Thank you,
see
that was
you
great.
Thursday,
Thank
maybe.
Thank you. Have a nice week.
I will.
Thank you.
Bye.